Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. The one data point that just continues to haunt my head, and certainly when we do projections, sometimes it's hard to predict exactly what's going to happen in the future. But when we think about the year 2100 and the population of China going from today 1.3 billion people down to 800 million people unless something changes with their population pattern. That contrasts quite starkly with the continent of Africa, which is roughly the same population, 1.2, 1.3 billion today. And if all things continue as they are today, the population of the continent will be 4.2 billion people. Now, I don't think that's probably practical. I think probably population will slow down as the continent develops. But I think the important idea behind all of this is that we've been talking about Africa for decades of being ready for investment. But one thing that we continue to hear now over the last couple of years, particularly from people like trusted advisors like Nihi Sanusi, who's in the room today, and Komi Plu, who may be joining today as well, is that this is the time to be selectively involved with investments in Africa. And some of the most successful people, and Nihi, you've mentioned this, some of the most successful people in the world are investing in Africa. One of our very significant investors in Kazakhstan, Margulan Sesembayev, has some significant investments in Africa. So it's a great time to understand more, and probably also a very good time to do some investing. And all of you, and certainly some of you with very deep knowledge, will be able to hopefully share some of that today. The purpose of today is really to make connections and also to understand what some of the opportunities are. We have several of you queued up to speak, but we'd love to have all of you speak. Most of you are members, and we'll identify you certainly as those. If you don't mind, I'd like to start with let's see. I thought I saw Nihi. Nihi, yeah, there you are. Hi, Nihi Sanusi. He's a trusted advisor, a longtime member of Global Chamber. He's an attorney with connections all across the continent. He's also our advisory board chair for Global Chamber Lagos. Nihi, do you mind kicking us off and maybe provide some perspectives on what you're seeing right now as we approach the end of the year from Nigeria?
Yes, thank you, Doug. Good evening from Lagos, Nigeria. Hello, everyone. For Nigeria, it's a mixed bag. We're coming out of quite a turbulent year economically. We hopefully next year will be better, but I say that with tongue in cheek, Key areas to focus on for the next year. I see energy playing a very critical role, renewable power as well. In that order, we have the Dangote refinery scheduled to come up sometime in the next few months, if not the next few weeks. This is about a 500,000 barrel per day refinery. If it comes on stream, it's really going to help the Nigerian economy in several ways. First of all, critical is the foreign exchange pressure. The USD is skyrocketing compared to the Nigerian naira, primarily because of high energy costs and landing costs for imported fuel. Nigeria is about the seventh largest producer of crude oil on the planet, but refineries, which are very critical infrastructure, have been dilapidated, have been quite moribund over the years. So this could be a game changer if it does come on stream in the next few weeks and months. As I said, it will really do a lot to help sustain the naira's position against the US dollar. I mentioned renewable power, and the last few days we've heard that Nigeria is getting a $750 million loan from the World Bank to address electricity. And if you're very familiar with Nigeria, we have a very huge need for electricity. At the same time, very little production. So if that comes on stream, if that is successfully done in the next year, hopefully, that could also do a lot to Nigeria. There's several other areas. Always, agriculture is always part of Nigeria's critical investment area. It's close to 70% of the workforce, directly and indirectly. So that says a lot about how important that is. Nigeria's entertainment industry, of course, is picking up. Possibly all of us have heard of Afrobeat. I've been exposed to Afrobeat ever since I was a child. So now it's picking up and gradually picking up globally as well. Entertainment, fashion, quite a number of other things. I think I'll leave it here for now. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Nihi. Does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to add to what Nihi has shared today, please?
I have a question.
Doug?
You mentioned, this is Larry Parsons. I'm calling from California. You mentioned energy at the top of your notes and this new refinery. Are you finding that or hoping that by being able to, extract the oil and refine it locally, that you can significantly reduce the cost for everybody as far as getting it distribution? And does the government really control and own all the refineries and all of the distribution channels? Is it really government controlled or private?
It's basically private, but there's a primary distribution channel called the PPMC. That's a Pipeline Products Marketing Corporation. Mm-hmm. So it's a huge part of that as the primary distributor. But in terms of how it's further distributed inland, since as far as refineries are concerned, most of them are close to the coast, Nigeria's coastline. Yeah. And so when you have them going inland, yes, it's basically private. But the key challenge has always been the ability to bring them in. Refineries over in Europe and I think America are we basically spend a lot of foreign exchange. Once the goods arrive, distribution channels are now, distributors are now paid locally in the local currency. So that is the key game changer. Even if there will be challenges down the line as far as distribution, the fact is that as far as payments and pressure on the US, on the Naira is concerned, the distribution locally, the payments locally help reduce the pressure. I don't know if that answers your question some way.
I have a question, Iji. You and I are involved with the medical equipment in Egypt, but is there an opportunity in Africa for medical equipment, either new or used, for American companies?
Yeah, I know there are some. I can't pick anyone specifically at the top of my head, but in the course of my reading, the past few hours, I've seen that there's potential for healthcare. But I can come back to you on that subsequently.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Nihi.
Thank you, Nihi. Appreciate it. Any other questions or thoughts? And otherwise, we'll just continue to go around the room. Thank you, Nihi, for your thoughts. Ruby Golo is in the room, and I hope you can talk, Ruby, because I was very excited to read somewhere over the last few days that you might be in California over the next several weeks, and we actually might both be in Los Angeles over the holidays. Is that possible that we could actually meet in person?
Hello, everyone. Indeed, I'm in America and currently speaking from Michigan. Very cold today. It's actually snowing here. So I'm planning to be in California tomorrow, and I will be there till end of January. So definitely I'm going to arrange for us to physically meet, and I can't wait for that.
That's really great news. That's awesome. Congratulations. So the Michigan connection is that through your better half?
Yes.
And some
so
things
my
that he's
husband
doing?
graduated. Yeah, my husband is here in school, Michigan State University, and he graduated on Friday. So we came for his graduation, my daughter and I.
Fantastic. That's great. I graduated Michigan State in the June of a few years ago. And so that's a much better time to go through graduation in East Lansing, Michigan.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Sorry about the cold. Is there anything that you would like to share from your normal position in Accra and in Ghana and in West Africa? Anything that you are seeing right now that you'd want to share and with the group, please?
Okay, so for me, I'm in the business of helping foreign companies that are looking to trade and invest in Ghana. We just tailor our services to meet the client's needs. And for us, we increasingly seen a lot of foreign companies interested in Africa and even in Ghana as we speak. My team is fully booked to work on various trade missions, to Ghana, typically one from Scotland. So the Scottish government has actually provided some funding to bring out some Scottish companies to come and explore opportunities in Ghana. And we have also received interest from Trinidad and Tobago. They're also looking to bring a group of businessmen to Ghana as well. As many of you may be aware, next year is election year in Ghana. So we are all watching to see whether the government will stay or there will be a change of government. So that is a bit of what I want to say. But if you are looking at Africa, this is the time. Don't wait. Don't sit on the fence. There are lots of opportunities. For us, we are here to support you as much as we can. Just tell us what your objectives are, and we can help you with your entry strategies. So that's what I want to add this today. Thank you.
One of the things I would say probably maybe 6 to 12 months ago that you mentioned several times was how the economy in Ghana was still struggling a bit. What's the trajectory there?
Yeah, so the economy started actually struggling from last year, where inflation was about 54+%. As we speak, I think it has kind of come down to 35. We are hoping that it will further go down because for obvious reason, election year. So I'm sure the current government will want to do some kind of magic to get people to understand that they are in control. Nevertheless, people are still struggling, especially businesses. New taxes have been introduced. In November, the budget was read. It's still with Parliament being debated because opposition does not believe that it's a good budget and they want to throw it out of the window. So we're all watching to see what happens towards the end of the year.
Very good. Thank you for sharing. I will say Ruby, as I think those of you who have connected with her and maybe even done work with her, is extraordinary in not only her knowledge, but also her connections. And we have a member in Armenia who are doing business in 85 countries, Synergy International Systems. And when they recently renewed their membership, which is not an inexpensive membership, they cited Ruby, working with Ruby, as one of the main reasons that they appreciate Global Chamber so much. And I know you're doing some additional work beyond the Global Chamber membership. So thank you for being our first executive director for Global Chamber Accra, then now a global advisor, turning over the executive director role to Gifty. And thanks for all the work and support with you, Ruby. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions or thoughts for Ruby or anything about Ghana or West Africa?
Ruby, this is Larry Parsons, also from California and a fellow MSU grad. I would love to connect with you when you're in Los Angeles and talk to you about the progress I'm making with my patented energy savings project that goes into fuels, which is why I was happy with CC NIHI. We're getting a lot of traction out there. I just recently presented the product in Athens,
Mhm.
and we are getting a lot of interest on the product in the African continent because it's the first and only product out there that addresses the pollution issues coming off diesel fuel. So we basically eliminate the black soot and also reduce NOx while saving on fuel costs at the same time. And people
Okay.
are just anxious to get their hands on it, and I'd love to chat with you further and maybe even in person while you're in the Los Angeles area. So I'll
I
send you
look
my
forward to
contact.
that.
Yeah, I'll send you
That
my
sounds
email on the
amazing.
chat.
Okay, I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Larry, and we'll let you speak later, but Larry has come in to Global Chamber through Dwayne Canova, who many of you know. They're business partners on at least one or two ventures. And so, I've met Larry at the Port of LA at one of our Global Chamber LA events. So thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Let's see. I see several people have joined, so that's cool. Jeff, I know you do some work in Africa, and you're everywhere. You've spent time this year in Uzbekistan. How many countries in 2023 for you? And what are some of the things that we should be looking out for in business or with you and your business?
7 countries this year. So
7. Cool.
I was hoping to get a few more, but it's been. I haven't got my travels to Africa set yet. I mean, it's interesting, since I represent a lot of BPOs, the back office, contact centers, all of them, third-party outsourcers are severely behind expanding in Africa, right? And that's all on the tip of their tongue from a standpoint of, relatively cost competitive English, multiple languages, German, Italian, French, as well as any local languages, being able to grow, right? 2 to 3 to 4,000 agents, where in Latin America, it's hard to do that. In the Philippines, they don't want to do that anymore, right? The growth in the Philippines has got to stop eventually by a lot of the outsourcers. So Africa is just kind of that next. You had India, then you had the Philippines. Now you're going to have Africa. And the biggest issue, it seems to be right now, aside from selling a U.S. company outsourcing their work to Africa, is the internet capabilities, the work from home capabilities, the electrical and capabilities of a country when you have that large of a facility, right? When you're talking 6, 7, 800 workstations, 900 workstations. So, for example, we did a project in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, and our client had major electrical issues because half the neighborhood was sourcing their electricity off our client's electrical panel, and electrical usage was just doubling, tripling, and quadrupling, and they couldn't do anything really about it. And so you've got these brownouts and these blackouts and such, and you've got to be careful. So, aside from the travel time it gets to Africa, that's hard to sell, right? Because it was a hard time selling India when it first started. It was a hard time selling the Philippines because you're talking 17, 18, 19 hours. Africa, quite interestingly enough, isn't as far of a travel as, say, the Philippines and parts of Asia. When you're talking about Dallas and New York and California and Atlanta, those are relatively, less time-wise. But it's just, I think our biggest issue, and this is one of the things I like about the Global Chamber, is being able to speak to a government promotions arm that typically hasn't been very active in Africa, right? There hasn't been, where in the United States and of course in Latin America, and especially parts of Europe, where the government has created a investment promotions arm solely for BPOs, solely for back office and ICT, whichever you want to call it. And it's hard to find that in parts of Africa. And that's one thing I really want to when we get in more and more involved in the global chamber and start expanding our reach into Africa, it is something that's going to be very necessary because yes, we want to make sure we talk to the right businesses and people that are doing business there, because our clients know that it's not as easy as selecting an African market and being in there and up in operation in 6 months. I mean, it's taking 9, 12, 18 months to get a facility up and operational in Africa, where it may take 6 months in Latin America. It may take 6 months in a Serbia or a Kosovo or North Macedonia. And so finding the right real estate people is a struggle for me. Finding the right governmental agencies that can help with getting information on the internet usage and the internet capabilities and the broadband capabilities, but also in the workforce, right? Harambee is one thing in parts of Africa and South Africa, but finding the right people that can help me from a government standpoint, from an IT standpoint, and from a labor standpoint, like workforce, whether it be a Kelly Services or a DECA or something like that, that you have in other countries, is finding the right person there in Africa that can help me navigate the multiple countries, right? Not just, one country's big, as you said, Africa is probably one of the biggest continents in the world, and it's just going to continue to grow where others maybe not grow as much as. And then the business is going to be growing dramatically in the next 10 years. And so finding the right government officials in each one of those countries in order to kind of help me navigate is always the hard part. But I've got tons of clients that are just solely focused on Africa over Latin America, over Jamaica, over Europe, over Asia. It's Africa, 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 and it's not as easy to navigate. So that's
okay. Well, let's work on that in 2024 because I think we're continuing to build those connections.
Jacob's been great. Jacob's on Ozone's call, and he's been fantastic from the standpoint of getting me to some of the right people. But it's always, it's never easy when you're in a market the size of Africa and all the different countries that, in the U.S. you have that similar kind of structure of, government agencies, economic development agencies that mine the kind of same way of doing things across the U.S. just differently. Where in Africa it's all across the board. So, but again,
no question.
One thing about a global chamber. That's one thing about global chamber is that is probably more vital than the government, because sometimes the government is kind of pushing you one way or the other, maybe not being as proactive and as over the table as, say, the global chamber was, because really it's more about business and less about, less government. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, and it's only global chamber because we know people like Ruby and some of the other folks in the room. So it's all about who you know and how to navigate locally. And quite honestly, that was Synergy's help. The initial help that Ruby provided was through 3 government ministries that she has, deep connections with. So thank you for sharing, Jeff. We have 30 minutes left in our conversation today. We'd like to finish on time. And so let's continue to go around the room. And I see Chuck Lay in the room, and he's on our Global Chamber Chicago Advisory Board, but he just got back from Africa, and he's involved with a variety of services, I think maybe even call centers, but certainly on the technology side. Chuck, do you have a moment to share about what you're seeing in Africa, what the opportunities are, and any help that you might need?
Sure. So my focus has been in Southern Africa, South Africa, and Botswana, but also very much interested in East Africa. But I'm trying to go deeper into Southern Africa. I visited there, and with a number of U.S. businesses, mostly larger businesses. But I see a great opportunity of the partnerships here in the States. I put in there that I partner with Cisco, with Microsoft, and Google, and we're trying to find ways to leverage the technology infrastructure that they have over here to over there. So, for example, the cloud computing, what are the business needs for these companies? If they said, hey, we would like to get access or we want better internet. And I know the electrical infrastructure comes first, but just trying to find companies that are, once that issue is resolved, or what are the technology needs, particularly cloud computing, basic internet access, wireless, things like that. I think there's some opportunities. I see from bigger companies here wanting to partner with companies in all over. I mean, not just South Africa, but East Africa, West Africa. That infrastructure, as you guys know, the circuits that are being built along the coast that allow for that internet connectivity. And I think each of the countries within Africa are going to start looking for better, more efficient internet traffic flows. Because right now, say if you're in South Africa or you're in Southern Africa, we call it hairpinning. You send all your traffic to South Africa, then it comes back. So I think countries are going to be a little more independent on that. But we'll be going back to Southern Africa into February and looking to again establish relationships, kind of open. I really want to open up an office or have a presence in either Johannesburg or in Botswana, Gaborone, but would love to partner with anyone there or anyone here while I'm over there and you have various needs. I'm going to focus on technology, but I would love to help anyone while I'm there. And I know a lot of the government officials, particularly in Botswana, and would love to support the global chamber because I met the counterpart there. They're very friendly, been very helpful. It's just now a lot of meetings and trying to leverage that. So, but thank you, Doug. Been very happy. And 2024, I look to being even more better. So, great.
Mo better, absolutely.
You more better.
Thank you very much. We'll keep going around the room. And if anybody has some comments along the way, either raise your hand or then circle back when it's your time to chat. I'd like to circle back with Dornicky. We mentioned her at the beginning. Dornicky, back in Accra, Ghana. Dornicky has a language translation and interpretation and localization business. And Dornicky, could you share a little bit more about your view of the market and what we should be thinking about and anything you'd like to share?
So first and foremost, I think you need to create the right relationship, as Doug mentioned, right? And so we have people like Ruby, because it's, yes, of course, you're going to get frustrated if you want to enter our market and you don't know anyone. So get the right relationship, build them, and then they'll, hold your hands and take you to the right places. And once you are able to do that, business becomes easy for you. So yes, that's my answer to Jeff. Okay, don't give up. Africa, it's a very good place to work with. I always say that where there are challenges, there are also opportunities. And of course, doors open to you if you're able to solve a problem. So try to solve a problem, and once you're solving the problem, doors will be open to you. So
absolutely. For Casa de Luenga, sorry, I think I'm still mispronouncing it. Lengua, thank you. Which I should know, but what are you planning for 2024, and how can we help you in your growth plans?
Okay, so we are trying to reach a lot more people because, as you know, we are in a global village. So how do you take advantage of the global village? You should have access to IT and then languages. And so we are trying to reach a lot of people, and I'm happy we are in a global chamber. Reach a lot of people, especially those in the global chamber, so that we help them to scale their businesses globally, and then also help them to bridge the language and cultural gaps. And so would need you to help us or introduce us to people within the Global Chamber, and then we take it from there. So warm
That sounds good.
introductions.
So warm introductions. Are there some
Yes.
particular countries or certain
Especially,
companies?
especially we are looking at universities. We are looking to work with universities because, you know, now we have a lot of Africans migrating to the West to have their first degrees, master's degrees program, etc. And especially if they are not English speakers, they would need their documents, certificates, transcripts, etc. to be translated for them. So we are looking to have connections with universities so that we can be doing such translations as and when they come up.
Thank you, Dornicky. We'll continue
Thank
to
you
build
too,
on
yeah.
those, including the relationship with Thunderbird. Thunderbird School of Global Management's headquarters in Africa is in Nairobi, and I think we've been marginally successful, but we want to expand that significantly in 2024. As I think some of you know, the CEO of Thunderbird is from Africa. He's from Uganda, and he was expelled, went to South Africa, ended up working for Nelson Mandela, and he's just one of the strongest proponents of Global Chamber that I know. I was on a call with him a few days ago when my wife was in the car. It was the only time I could schedule the time, and she said afterwards, "Wow, that guy loves Global Chamber. Who is that?" It's the president and the CEO of Thunderbird. So we need to be more effective in Nairobi, and I'll work with Cliff to get you there. And I think all across Africa, we need to do a better job at the university level and the business schools. That was a key aspect of Mexico doing better with their nearshoring of IT services into the US by having the universities develop IT programs for students. You've got to get the professors, you've got to market the programs to the students, you've got to then have the businesses to be able to have the business in Europe and in the US and other countries to be able to export those services. It's a process that Mexico was quite successful with. And I know Comiclu, that's one of the things he's working on for outsourcing, not just IT services, but overall business admin services. And that's going to be a huge market, I think, in the next 10 years for some countries. Thank you, Dornicky, for sharing. Nihi, you have your hand raised. Do you have a question or thought, please?
Yes, I just wanted to respond to Jeff Papa's following up on what Dornicky said, the same approach. You know, I feel that the tendency is to look at Africa a bit. I mean, there's a need to look at it a bit differently. Some of the information that you're looking out for from government officials, they just might not be available actually from those sources. There may be other places where you could get them probably as effectively and probably even better than what the government can do. If you have to wait for government, I don't want to make comments on that, but I think my expression says a lot. Beyond that, the African countries vary from one another. The approach in Ghana, I mean, I went to do some work in Ghana. Very, very different ecology from Nigeria. Extremely different, you know. We speak the same language, we look alike. We have basically the same pidgin English, but very, very different cultures in terms of business. And these are both Anglophone countries. If you go to the Francophone and others, you're going to have a lot of challenges. So my advice is that if there are things that you need from Africa, it may not necessarily be from the sources that you're looking out for. It may be from somewhere else, and you just might get something better. So I think that should be an option on the table. Thanks.
Governments everywhere can be crazy, and they range in every country, even in the U.S., state to state or city by city. So I love your thought. Don't wait. Just keep moving and find ways to be effective and to provide your services. Thank you, Nihi. Let's go to Titilayo Yusuf. We thank you for joining us today. What's your perspective,
Thank you.
Titi?
Well, although I was born and raised in the UK, I've worked in Africa for about 16 years. I've worked across 7 African countries, to include Nigeria and Ghana. In Ghana, I was living in Takoradi back in the days. So for me, it's a case of 1, building the network, but 2, having cultural intelligence and competency as well, because it just goes beyond just the relationship. You need to really understand the nuances of the country, like any country. But most importantly, you need to put your boots on the ground yourself. I've always said it, you got to feel it, you got to smell the air, you got to touch the ground to really connect with the environment. But yeah, I mean, as a consultant, as mentioned earlier, working across Africa for a number of years, I decided to set up my own consulting firm. Now, what I've always believed is, in terms of technology, fintech, Africa is up there. Now, other things are not working. So there's clearly some kind of disconnect, but it's coming together. And I feel that if Africa can achieve that level of tech capability, then one can achieve anything in Africa. The way I built my team and my leadership team was looking at not just anyone, but those that have worked in Africa that understand the nuances and capabilities, and also have a good understanding of geopolitical intelligence as well, which is my background. So we've actually gone into Africa, having worked there, and tried to look at different key areas to help not only build the economy, focus on local content, focus, in all our pitches, we have to talk about local content development. That is why for example, in Nigeria, you have a Nigerian Content Development Monitoring Board to monitor that. That has to be almost your page 1 as your selling pitch to grow and evolve and to be relevant. So I'm going into Nigeria now from January, as Nii is aware, and I'm looking at human behavior analytics, taking a different perspective on data analysis and being able to nurture, how do we look at data and how can we enhance human behavior? Whether we're addressing politics, geopolitics, climate change, it's all around the same narrative. But secondly, we're looking at resilience by addressing industrial safety and risk management, basically focusing on digital twins, which is, again, very different. And we're going to start focusing on the industry that we all know. So I used to work for Schlumberger for about 7 years. So I've worked with, Anadarko, AP, Shell. We're looking at the oil and gas industry. We're looking at mining. We're looking at construction for key reasons, because we have the capability of executing projects from a standpoint of at least understanding the environments and being credible. Well, our leadership is, they're individually credible in different domains. So it's really about taking what we've all learned and what we have in our respective countries. I'm based in the UK, and taking it into Africa, but in a meaningful and intentional way. Again, as Ruby, Nii, you'll understand, it's all about your delivery. It's not about going in gun blazing. It's about relating your experience, your tenacity, your credibility, your equipment, your services, your outcomes with the local environment. And like I mentioned earlier, framing what you're going to give back, how you're going to develop local content. With all that in mind, I don't think it's as hard as we think. Don't get me wrong, navigating the government is heart-wrenching. That goes without a doubt. But again, you do have capable and competent consulting firms that can equally support you, and great, people that have got inroads into varying government ministries and so on and so forth. So that's really my consulting arm. And also, I'm sure Doug, I don't think you're aware, but we are the company that are taking the DEI Leadership Institute into Africa, and that's from Maria Putnam. So we're doing that. And again, that is about,
wow,
when we think about Africa, and I've said this to Nii, we keep hearing, okay, gender equality, but what I'm not hearing are terminologies like inclusion, neurodiversity. I want to hear about it a bit more. We want to incorporate that into companies. And for example, when you want to expand and talk about mergers and acquisitions, you need to be talking about cultural integration and cultural competency in your merger and acquisitions as you're going into Africa. And your players and your clients and your teams need to hear that, because again, it's not just about expanding. What's the integration of local versus global? How is it done? Who talks about it? That needs to be part of your sales pitch as well.
That's amazing.
Right now, I'll move into our NGO. We created an NGO before COVID and we had to put it on hold because obviously we couldn't do much. The founding principle is saying to the world, because we're geopolitical analysts and experienced ex-military armed force professionals, we do understand what it means to live in the humanitarian crisis mode. We get it. So we built my nonprofit Empower Her, which again focuses on girls, but in a very different way. I'm all about how do we educate girls during humanitarian crisis? It has to go beyond the pen. It has to go beyond the book and the stick and the cane. So what we've done is we've worked with psychologists to create an education games hub. We're already in one settlement camp in Calabar. We're going into Maiduguri in January, thank goodness. Now we're going to be moving from there into neighboring states around Borno State. And then we move into Kenya, Q2. The purpose of this is to say we have to be more intentional when it comes to educating anyone, but particularly during humanitarian crisis. You can educate children using STEM, Next, Lego. You can do that. But what's important for me was we have to create the capability to be very intentional where we have sensory tools and games for kids that have got neurodiversity needs. We've got professionals and professors from the UK supporting and championing what we're trying to achieve to make sure that all of our education games hub has facilities for neurodiversity children, plus also those that are blind and deaf. So we're very inclusive and intentional. But again, because we have been on the ground, like I thrive in high-risk countries, and that's where I've always worked. That's where our EHA education games clubs have started, in high-risk zones. That's really it from me. All done, because I can talk for tomorrow, and I know there's a lot of wonderful people that I need to be talking to as well. That's it.
That sounds good. Thank you for sharing. Lots there. Please put as much of that into the chat area as you can.
I will.
And
yes.
then I'm going to spend some time on your LinkedIn profile the next few days. So if you have anything coming up, let us know and we'll post it there as well. Thank you for sharing. Lots there to process.
You're very welcome. No problem. Thank you.
We've got about 12 minutes left, and I'd like to do a couple minutes with Ruth first, and then we're just opening up to maybe a minute, just updates from folks, if you don't mind. And in the meantime, feel free to put your information in the chat area. Ruth Emanuel is on our Global Chamber Los Angeles Advisory Board. She's an extraordinary global leader, been very involved with international business. She happens, I think, to be in Australia right now. And she has a survey, we were talking about universities before, around global education that she'd like to do across Africa. Ruth, do you have a moment to share that? I presume you're going to do that in the chat area, and I know we've made some introductions for you today as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Doug. I just got back yesterday, so I'm still a bit jet-lagged. But pleasure meeting everybody, and just love all the insights shared. I would love to connect with each and one of you. I'm Ruth. I'm based here in Los Angeles. I have a firm called Vireo. I do a lot of international trade promotion within the community, international business community here in Los Angeles. So help firm kind of market access the California market. But more and more in my firm, I've been very much passionate about connecting to the African continent. I'm Ethiopian born, Canadian raised, now American living. So I have kind of dual identities, I feel, and there's much more of an interest of engaging the African diaspora. So through my firm, I think what Titilayo said was really kind of hit home. There's very much a need for people to develop cultural competencies first. I think it's the basis for business. And you do that only through immersion, right? You have to feel and you have to go to the continent and really understand the culture, and then, you know, business follows. So through my vast network here in education and business, I'm trying to develop kind of like a global exchange, or in education, but also in professionals, to actually engage highly skilled international diaspora talent with businesses on the continent. So I've been doing a lot of in-depth interviews with business that are there, and asking them, you know, what are your needs? We don't want to go there and displace talent, but we also have a need to reconnect with our roots, our origins. Where can we meet you halfway? And we've been doing a lot of in-depth interviews, but now we're following that with our researchers to surveys to say, you know, is it technical talent? Is it advisory services? Is it, what sectors, how long, what format? Is it hybrid? And we've gotten such great insights already in terms of saying, yeah, we do want to engage you, but at this level for this amount of land in this area. And I feel like the diaspora is really an untapped potential for the continent. We already have, the cultural fit, we already have the desire, and we already have the talent. There's no reason why we're always extracting from the continent. We could also could also give back, all of us, with our talents, not just Africans, but also the non-Africans, bringing all our friends along. So I would love for everyone here, if you're an African-based business, to fill out our survey to provide the real data that we can create some really sophisticated experiences for people to engage on the continent. And I'll share that on chat. But again, I'm also on LinkedIn, and I'm also a Global LA Area Chamber. So I'll be much more visible and connecting more in the new year. And it's really a pleasure to be part of this network. And thank you, Doug, for giving me the floor and providing those warm introductions.
Thank you. Definitely, everyone, fill out that form that's being shared right now. And let's now go to Cotonou and Lomé with Claudia Nute. She is our global advisor in that region, Benin and Togo. Claudia, do you have a moment to share and just say hi, or anything you'd like to share? Claudia, are you there? Sorry, I didn't give you advance warning.
Yes, yes.
Bonjour.
Hello. Bonjour.
En français?
Français, why not?
En français, s'il vous plaît.
Okay. Okay. Bonjour chers tous. Moi, je suis Claudia Noutayi. Je suis Global Advisor de Global Chamber à Cotonou. Je suis auditrice de formation et oui, nous travaillons aussi à ce que Global Chamber soit connu ici et puisse permettre l'inclusion financière de tout un chacun et permettre que nous soyons plus, nous puissions accroître nos activités et améliorer nos activités.
Thank you very much. We're gonna have to continue to go around the room, but thank you for sharing, and please put your contact information in the chat area.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Who else? We've got about 6 or 7 minutes left, maybe 1 minute per person. Who's next? Who would like to go?
I will go, Doug, because I have to leave. I have another client coming up. I'm originally
just about
from Italy.
A minute.
Oh, absolutely. I'm originally from Italy, and as a family, I have a lot of cousins who were born in north of Africa, so I'm very familiar with the country. We have been very successful in bringing African companies, especially South African companies, to the US, who are digital companies. Why? It's a lot less expensive, a lot more effective, and I have to say that the kind of technology that is now in Africa digitally is very close to the rest of the world. if not in certain areas, competing at a better area. So if you know of any digital company who wants to come to the US, please get in touch with us. We'd love to be able to help you.
Thank you, Roberto. And Roberto is not only on our Global Chamber LA Advisory Board, but he is also co-leader of our events committee. And 2024 is going to be a very busy, amazing year for that chapter, including one of the first event, I think, is January 11th. And then we have a cross metro meetup on January 16th, and it just continues from there. Thank you, Roberto. Who else has anything to share, please? Please just unmute yourself and go ahead. I see Yvonne hasn't spoken yet, and Paula hasn't. Nancy, I don't know your last name, Nancy. Furby, Dwight, and Cecil, and Amanda. All. Any of you would like to share?
Good day, everyone. Hi, Yvonne, Phoebe Marketing Group from Washington, D.C. I will be bringing U.S. businesses to Rwanda, Ghana, Kenya, possibly UAE in 2024 to connect with people like you. We are grounded in Kenya. We are grounded in Rwanda, meaning we are registered as businesses. So if you want connections to those two countries, please contact with us with that. So it's about also AGOA. So any African countries who really have products they really want to bring to the U.S. or just global trade outside with a free trade agreement or whatever, contact me. Thank you.
Fantastic. And I did have a chance to look at your email, and I see that you're renewing your membership. So we look forward to welcoming you back and understanding more how to help. Thank you. Dwight, how are you?
Doug, I'm fine. How are you? Just a quick note I put in the chat already earlier. You know, my focus is cross-border trade, especially in the area where financing may be required. I have a long history in Africa, as many of you might know. And I can only emphasize what was said earlier. You can't be successful in Africa if you're not going to get your boots on the ground, just pure and simple. I mean, it's not the case. It's the case elsewhere in the world, but no less so on the African continent. I can speak to that from my own experience. And that's so as far as 2024 is concerned, looking to get engaged with any meaningful project in that where my time would be of value, and that to help drive global revenue for whoever it is that is wanting to seek to engage me. I'm in Phoenix, and that's so easily accessible, and quite willing to do that to start out the new year. And I think that pretty much covers it without going any further in depth.
Dwight is the best at trade and export financing. That's what he is, like head and shoulders above everyone else I've ever seen. And he's also a Thunderbird graduate, so he's available for all sorts of anything that's related to the finance world of trade. He's a person you should be speaking with. He's also been instrumental on the Chicago Advisory Board in a finance series that we have. We've done 2 programs. We have 2 more coming up. Watch for those in 2024. I also want to mention about Yvonne Rivers, who spoke earlier. She's a graduate of Lincoln University, which is an extraordinary university in southeastern Pennsylvania, where I've spent a good amount of time. She's also an expert on trade and exporting and importing and this region that we're talking about today, and is a trusted advisor in that. She's also kind of a hard love kind of a person, or that's my impression of the way she is. And sometimes we all need a kick in the butt, and she seems like somebody who can do that in addition to providing the capability to be successful. Anybody else have anything? Maybe have time for one more person before we close the room.
Hi, my name is Amanda Stevenson, the Fresh Fruit Factories Market in Washington, D.C. We source and sell local healthy and ethnic foods, and we recently traveled to Kenya. We've gone to Nigeria and a few other places, but we like to source from Africa, the diaspora, and to find those foods that have medicinal properties and bring them back to communities that need it most. And we do work in conjunction with people in nutrition, dietetics, and also medicine and insurance providers to be able to make it accessible and make what we do successful. So just looking to really grow in the space and to bring over more healthy and ethnic foods.
Okay. What's your company name, Amanda? I don't think you're a member, are you, of Global Chamber?
I'm becoming a member.
Oh,
It's
yay.
Fresh Food Factory Market. Hi.
Super. Hi. What's the name of the company?
The Fresh Food Factory Market.
The Fresh Food Factory Market. That's a mouthful, but now we'll remember it. So that's
Yeah,
awesome.
and we're adding the Fresh Food Factory Market and Eatery. So we're incubator
Okay.
market, and we have prepared and packaged foods.
Are you in DC or Maryland or where?
I'm in the District of Columbia.
Okay,
And
fantastic.
Maryland.
So there's a regional in-person event on the 17th. It just went up on the website in the last 24 hours. So check that out. And if you can go, there's an ambassador speaking, and it's a lunch that Mijong Hibbets does quite a bit. So hopefully you can attend.
Awesome. You mentioned that's on your website?
It is. It's on January 17th for Baltimore, Washington, in person only. So it's a lunch.
Thank you for that.
So we'll get you connected to Mijong to make sure. We're at the top of the hour, so we need to end. But Cesar, are you there? And is there anything that we missed, or anybody that we missed, or anything that you'd like to point out? This is really kind of our last week of events this year. What should we know? I know there's a Young Global Leader event on Thursday.
That's right, Doug. There's a couple of events happening this week. We have tomorrow. Tomorrow we have the LinkedIn call with Doug and a couple of speakers from the Global Chamber. So if you're on LinkedIn, look for that event and join us. It's an audio event. And we have the Spanish-speaking event talking about emotional intelligence with Susana. We're members in Spain. So if any of you speak Spanish, feel free to jump into that one too. Then on Wednesday, we have the Young Global Leaders. That's the last one of the year. We've been doing it every month throughout the entire year. And we have Jacob Deitch, our member, who's here with us today. He's going to be moderating and talking about AI and how to implement AI into the business growth and professional growth, in essence. So then the Young Global Leaders on Thursday, my bad. On Wednesday, we have the regular book authors event. And then on Friday, we have our League of Extraordinaries, only for members. So a lot of things happening. And I want to really give I would say this is the last time I'm going to say it. We're having 2 days matchmaking events happening right now. Still it is possible because I saw a couple of emails with some members. So it's still possible to get in. I'm going to put the link here in the chat box. It's basically a platform that we've been partnered with. They're members of the chamber. And you can go there, put your company info and check with other members and use their automatic matchmaking to connect with others. So you're just putting that link right now. So you still have part of today and tomorrow to connect and have some one-on-one 15 minutes meeting. So take a look, and thank you, Doug.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. If we don't chat with you, have a happy holiday and New Year. Jump into something this week, including those networking, connecting events that are happening today and tomorrow through the matchmaking link. Join the Global Chamber LinkedIn group. We have the latest event almost always right at the top, so you can see what's coming up in the next hour or the next day. And follow us, our LinkedIn company page as well, and stay connected to Global Chamber because it's a fun place to be, and there's always new opportunities coming. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.